this is also a time of change for my family.
King Charles called a private meeting at Buckingham Palace and invited Prince William, Catherine, Queen Camilla, Princess Anne, and several trusted advisors. No one knew the real reason for the gathering. Some believed it might be about security, while others feared it could involve the king's health or the future of the monarchy. The atmosphere inside the room was unusually quiet because meetings in the private council chamber were only held for matters of the highest importance. After everyone had taken their seats, King Charles placed a sealed crimson folder on the table. He looked around the room before calmly revealing that Prince William's coronation would take place on the 14th of November 2026 at Westminster Abbey. The announcement stunned everyone. It was far earlier than anyone had expected, and the silence that followed made it clear that this decision carried much deeper meaning than simply announcing a future ceremony. Prince William remained still for several moments before quietly asking his father one simple question: why now? Instead of answering immediately, King Charles lowered his eyes and stayed silent. That silence spoke louder than words. William realized that such an exact date could never have been chosen without a powerful reason, and Catherine immediately sensed that this moment would change the future of their entire family. Catherine understood that becoming queen would not only transform her own responsibilities but would also change the lives of Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Their childhood would slowly be replaced by royal duty. Before anyone had fully absorbed the first announcement, King Charles revealed another unexpected decision that surprised everyone in the room. The king officially placed Catherine in charge of the emotional and symbolic planning of the coronation ceremony. Her responsibility would go far beyond organizing an event. She would help shape how the next reign would be remembered by history. Every detail, every tradition, and every symbol would carry meaning for generations to come. Queen Camilla was visibly surprised when Charles explained that several elements from the previous coronation would not be included in William's ceremony. She appeared ready to question the decision, but before she could speak, the king quietly closed the folder, making it clear that his choice had already been made. Princess Anne carefully watched the reactions around the room, realizing that this announcement had quietly created tension inside the royal family. William gently rested his hand on the sealed folder, but chose not to open it. Catherine placed her hand over his, silently offering comfort and support without saying a single word. King Charles watched them both with sadness in his eyes, understanding that this announcement carried emotional weight for everyone present. At that moment, Princess Anne noticed another sealed envelope hidden beneath the king's chair. It was marked with Prince William's initials and carried a short instruction saying it should only be opened in private. Everyone realized that although the coronation date had been announced, another important truth was still waiting inside that unopened envelope. Each member of the family faced a different fear. King Charles was preparing to slowly step away from the role he had waited decades to hold. Prince William felt the enormous pressure of becoming king sooner than expected. Catherine worried about the future awaiting her children, while Queen Camilla quietly feared that the monarchy's next chapter might already be moving forward without her. When the meeting ended, Prince William left the council chamber still carrying the sealed envelope. For years, he had studied constitutional responsibilities and prepared himself for the day he would become king. But now the future no longer felt distant. With an official date finally confirmed, every lesson he had learned suddenly became part of a real countdown, and the responsibility of the crown had become closer than ever before. After leaving the council chamber, Prince William walked through a quiet corridor without saying a word. Catherine stayed beside him until they reached a private area where they could finally speak freely. The reality of the announcement had started to sink in. The coronation was no longer a distant event, it had become a confirmed moment that would soon change their lives forever. William admitted that the official date felt less like an honor and more like a warning. He had spent years preparing for the responsibilities of the crown, but having a fixed day made everything feel far more real. The weight of becoming king suddenly seemed heavier than ever before. Catherine listened carefully before reminding him that their children would notice every emotion he showed. If Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis saw fear in their father, they might begin to fear the future themselves. She encouraged William to remain calm, explaining that his confidence would give strength to the entire family. Although Catherine's words brought him comfort, they could not completely remove the pressure he felt. Becoming king meant far more than wearing a crown. It meant carrying the responsibility of leading the monarchy while protecting the people closest to him. Meanwhile, King Charles returned alone to his private study. Looking at an old photograph of his two sons, he reflected on the years he had spent preparing William for this role. Pride and regret mixed together in his thoughts. He knew he had done everything possible to prepare his son, yet the moment still felt difficult. The relationship between father and son had gradually changed over time. Conversations that were once simple had become centered around duty, succession, and the future of the monarchy. Even when speaking as family, the presence of the crown always seemed to stand between them. Not long afterward, Queen Camilla learned that she would not have official control over the upcoming coronation plans. While she would attend the ceremony and fulfill her public responsibilities, the main decisions regarding music, ceremonial traditions, family positions, and symbolic elements would all be directed by Catherine. Feeling deeply hurt, Camilla entered Charles's study and directly asked whether he had already begun removing her from the future of the monarchy. Charles quietly listened and acknowledged that he understood her feelings. However, he also made it clear that his decision would not change. Before their conversation could continue further, Princess Anne privately met with Prince William. She explained that the chosen coronation date was not selected simply because it was convenient. According to Anne, it was connected to a private promise made after an important family event that had taken place years earlier. Finally, William opened the sealed envelope he had been carrying since the meeting. Inside was only one handwritten sentence. This date became unavoidable after what happened at Windsor. Reading those words made him realize that the answer to his father's silence could only be found by returning to the events that had unfolded at Windsor Castle several months before the coronation date was announced. A private gathering at Windsor Castle quietly changed the direction of the royal family's future. The event was never meant for the public. It was organized as a confidential rehearsal to test how the monarchy would continue during an unexpected emergency. Instead of building confidence, the meeting exposed uncertainty, hidden disagreements, and weaknesses that could no longer be ignored. King Charles arranged the exercise to observe how senior members of the royal family would respond if the monarch suddenly became unable to carry out important state responsibilities. While the scenario was fictional, the purpose behind it was very real. The king wanted to know whether the system could continue smoothly during a national crisis. Prince William believed he was simply taking part in a routine constitutional exercise. Catherine, however, sensed there was something much more important happening. She realized Charles was not only watching how people handled responsibility, but also measuring their loyalty, judgment, and emotional control under pressure. As advisors described a series of imaginary emergencies involving canceled engagements, delayed government decisions, and urgent royal duties, the discussion became increasingly serious. Then one senior official asked a question that immediately changed the atmosphere inside the room: who should take charge if King Charles could no longer perform his responsibilities? Before Prince William had the opportunity to respond, Queen Camilla stepped forward and calmly stated that no transition should take place without her approval. Although her voice remained controlled, her words surprised everyone. King Charles looked at her in disbelief, clearly not expecting such a statement during the rehearsal. William chose not to argue. Out of respect for both his father and the situation, he remained silent. Catherine immediately recognized the problem. She understood that his silence, which came from loyalty and respect, could easily be mistaken by others as uncertainty or hesitation during a real national crisis. The meeting continued, but the atmosphere had completely changed. Different opinions were no longer hidden beneath formal discussions. It became obvious that, without clear plans, confusion could quickly replace unity during an actual emergency. Charles quietly observed every reaction, realizing that assumptions alone could no longer protect the future of the monarchy. Later that day, King Charles asked William to meet him privately. Once they were alone, the king questioned why his son had not spoken more firmly during the discussion.